Alright, I got a little project today, once again on the laser engraver. A coworker requested a little placard for their son, just a cross with their name on, with a placard with a cross and their son's name on it. And I thought I'd just go ahead and get that on film today. I have the Longer Nano 6-watt laser engraver, and I have it set up for, I also have the slide extension. If you haven't seen my earlier videos, slide extension allows me to make go from making something that's only about that big to extends it to 300 millimeters by 100 millimeters. So it gives you a little bit more working space, not a ton, only about that by that. So, first off, I need to cut a piece of cedar picket. Got a partial piece here ready to go that's got some nice looking grain on it. So I am going to cut that. These are 5.5 wide, I believe, just fine because I want some. I can't laser print 5.5 wide. I can only do that about 4 inches wide or a little less. But you always want some space, some open space on the outside of the project anyway, usually. So I can it'll still fit, but the laser engraving will just be more towards the middle. So I'm going to leave the width alone. I'm just going to cut it to length, and I'm going to go 11 inches on it. So, marking pencil. I'm just going to get some of the things that don't need to be on the table out of my way. Okay. I'm just going to go 11 inches. I can engrave slightly longer than that, but I don't need it to. So 11 inches is what we're aiming for. So I'll take that over to the miter saw and get some safety glasses on. And I'm going to use my square. That one just needs a new home. That's about the 20th time I've done that. So that's going up higher where I can't knock it over. I'm just going to get my square on there. Actually, I almost forgot. I have a knot right at the end of this that I want to get out of my way. So I am going to cut that out of there and then remeasure. Okay, let's remeasure. There's my 11-inch mark. tube and we'll put a nice square line all the way across at that mark. And make another cut. Okay, so now what I have is approximately an 11-inch by 5.5-inch workspace for my laser engraving. I like the wood patterns on there. So I am going to run this across the jointer a couple of times just to clean up the edges. I'll probably leave the back of it rough because I want enough thickness to get my, I'm going to put a little hanging bracket on it, and the nails are just a little shy of the thickness of this wood, so I don't want to take too much off of it, but I'm going to clean up the face. I think I'm going to use this side. The knots are a little less pitted there. These knots are a little deep on this side, so I'll go with the easier side and leave the back side rough just so I have enough space to hammer the nails without poking through on the other side. So I have the joiner in the background here. It's actually a joiner planer combo from Grizzly. I'll just be using the joiner since I don't need to thickness plane. I just want to make it pretty on one side. I've got a helical head that does a pretty good job of making it look nice. So I'm going to move my traction from the miter saw to the joiner. Get my joiner plugged in. Going to remove my hoodie for safety reasons. And we'll just try and get a pretty face on this. Okay, we cleaned up the face and the sides. And now it occurs to me I should probably hit the top and bottom too, just to make them look flatter and prettier. And then leave the back side rough. So I'm going to do that real quick. Okay, I'm learning some what not to do situations, so going on end grain apparently isn't such a great idea because you get a little blowout there. So I'm going to start over on, I'm going to scrap this piece and actually I'll just make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to cut off the mistakes I made and go from there. We'll just cut those sections off and make the placard a little bit smaller. There were no specifications other than for who I'm making this for on size, just that they wanted a nice little placard with a cross and their son's name on it. So I guess I'm going to make it just a little bit smaller now. And now I've learned a valuable lesson about what not to do using my fairly new to me joiner planer combo. So I'm going to move my dust extraction back to the miter saw and clean those ends up. Soon I'll be installing an air filtration system in here, and I'm going to bring you guys along for the ride on that. I just need to spend a few days at my usual vocation, and then I'll have some days off to tackle that project. So hopefully that's coming soon. Okay, I'll just have to clean those up the old-fashioned way with some sandpaper to make them appear flatter and more professional. Or I could potentially hit the whole thing with a round-over bit. I don't know if I have enough time for that today. Probably not. All right. So now I'll have to spend some time designing on my phone the image, and that can be somewhat time consuming, so I'll bring us back when I figured that out. Okay, I got my image set up, ready to go. I got my ridiculously handsome glasses on, my laser goggles to protect my eyes, especially when I'm using the slide extension. I don't have the protective layer or the protective guard shielding my eyes from the laser. This 6-watt model is shorter than the 12-watt, and because I tried to put everything together, I run into trouble because the spacing of the 6-watt model, when I have the knobs on and everything, as the slide is moving, eventually it runs into one of those knobs and everything moves together, and it's super annoying. I wish they would have done a little better job at setting up the 6-watt model on this slide extension. But it is doable. I just had to remove this knob to get it out of the way. I spent probably 20 minutes checking the border. I'll show you a demonstration of that. So this is the border laying out on the piece of wood, just with a little blue dot. I don't know if it's showing up on camera or not, but it is just laying out the border of my entire engraving area, which is not the full width of the board. But I'm happy with my placement. I'm not going to use, well, I take that back. I'm going to put at least one hold down on here so it doesn't move on me. And then recheck my border one more time to make sure it's not going to run into that hold down. And it is clear of that. Check that border one more time because I felt like I was a little closer on this side than I was on this. And indeed I was, so I'm going to move that ever so slightly in that direction. We'll try again. A lot of time lining things up. That looks better. Okay, let's go ahead. I set the cross for 250 millimeters a second at 60% power, and I went with 200 millimeters per second at 50% on the lettering. So let's see how it goes. Before I do that, I'm going to get my like to suck the smoke through my HEPA filter. Makes it a little less bad in here. Or maybe it's just in my head. But I like to do it. So I'm going to have that ready once this gets started. So I'm going to confirm the file. The file is saving. I have my super sexy goggles on. Alright, and press the start button. What is wrong? Okay. I'm not sure what's going on here. Having technical difficulties. Working now. Okay. And there goes my super sexy goggles right to the concrete floor. Okay. First impressions. In spite of all my efforts, I still ended up a little off center. That's all right. I'll remove some of that wood to make it more even. that machine is a little more difficult to contend with when using the slide extension than I would like. There's a lot of trial and error for the project so far. Hopefully I get better at it. I would really like to not have to take so much time setting this up every time I want to engrave something. But it does make an image. I just wouldn't want to have to run any kind of production off of this thing because it is not an efficient process. So I'm going to brainstorm how I'm going to fix the alignment issue and come back. Okay, that didn't take too long. I took some measurements and made a mark, and for this small of a piece I can simply use the miter saw to hack a bit off, and then I'll use the joiner to plane it down to the final dimension that I like. So that's a little more centered. Just a couple passes on the jointer should clean that up and make it look a little prettier. Okay, that looks quite a bit more centered now. So, next up, I'm going to attach just a little wall hanger on the back. I just so happen to have a little picture hanger accessories kit. So I will throw one of these guys on that I don't really know what to call. It'll allow them to put a nail or a screw in the wall and hang it off of that. So put it on top there. I have trouble getting the nails out. And now I need a little hammer. A little 2-ounce ball peen that I'm quite fond of should do the trick. method for getting my big fat fingers out of the way. Let's try that. That should work. Started. Good. So now I'll try and hold it fairly level. Okay. And now we've got a little wall hanger on the back. Not a super fancy design, but that's what was asked, and I hope my coworker's son enjoys it. Until next time. At this point, I thought I was done, so I turned the volume off on my microphone. And then I decided to get a round over bit out and do a little more work on this project. There is no audio attached to this file, so voiceover it is. Here I'm lining up my round over bit to the correct depth for the thickness of this board. On the plus side, we don't have to listen to the router noise. The round over bit clearly gives it a more professional look, and I'm happy that I decided to do it. Here I'm using the random orbital sander to clean up the edges. Decided to finish the project off with a couple of layers of spar urethane, mostly for UV protection if this happens to be hung in an area where sunlight can get to it. Please like and subscribe so I can bring more content to this channel. Thank you for watching.